You're listening to Childeric. This is my podcast. You're listening to me. I am Childeric. This is episode 46. 46 glorious and majestic episodes. There's a good number of things going on today. G7 is happening in Quebec. All of the leaders lined up for their photo op this morning. And there were microphones there, and I was able to get a little bit of a listen into the small talk, the chit-chat between these world leaders. And I'm trying to get inside their head, you know? What is going through their mind, especially after last night's huge win by Doug Ford and the PC Conservatives in Ontario, which some are taking to be a referendum on the Trudeau government for the simple fact that Kathleen Wynne was essentially the prototype of Justin Trudeau's government. And inasmuch that was true, Justin Trudeau's government referred quite extensively to the policies of Kathleen Wynne. Well, Kathleen Wynne lost very big last night, very big. And so it can only be viewed as a referendum on the policies that have been carried on by the liberal government. That stuff, of course, there will be more to come in the next few months. And so, but I suspect that there's going to be a good number of changes. So that's good for Canada. And I also suspect, too, that with the G7 summit, you're going to see a lot of plays by the 6 nations, minus the U.S., against the U.S. And, of course, you know, they're going up against Donald Trump. They're going up against the tactics of the art of the deal. The guy is not a slouch, and everyone who thinks they're going to get one over on him is mistaken. And it's a mistake they keep making, and because they don't learn the lesson. So that's an exciting thing that's happening, and it's very nice to see everybody. It's a beautiful day over there in Quebec, and the optics were really great. But where the rubber hits the road, okay, is when they actually get down to start talking about brass tacks, okay? So I think you're going to be shocked to find that the United States walks away with everything favorable towards them, and nothing's the things that some of these governments were playing politics with their trade a little bit, trying to get get Trump to back down on the tariffs. And this is the thing with Trump. First of all, these world leaders think that if they can get Trump to cave on any of these tariffs, any of these situations that he continually keeps bringing up, if they can get some sort of concession out of him, then that will show a weakness, a crack in the dam, so to speak. So that other countries will cooperate with each other and group together to continually do that. And so if you put yourself in the mind of Trump for a moment, there's a lot of hot women, but also he's faced with that reality, and you know he's not going to allow that to happen. He's not going to allow the momentum of the last 500 days to begin to reverse and watch everyone undo what he's already accomplished here in the United States. So the flip side of the whole thing is that they're not listening to what Trump is saying. I mean, they're watching what he's doing, but they're defensive. They're on the defensive. What they need to be doing is watch what he's doing for the United States and then come to the conclusion that they could be doing the exact same thing and having the exact same success in their own countries outright. Not by being a bully, but just watch how he's operating, watch what he's actually doing. Don't listen to people who are emotionally attached to this idea of hating Donald Trump as a man. Don't do that. Get away from that, okay? Look at what he's doing and take similar steps. He's showing you how you can become successful and how your economies can grow and how you have a requirement to weed out corruption. And so there's, in the end, the things that he's implementing economically are going to benefit everyone. And so none of these people have figured this out. None of these European nations have figured it out. And I'm going to tell you the secret why they're attempting to kind of try to pull away from Trump's leadership among those G7 countries. They're trying to pull away from it because these liberal globalists have set up systems and stashed money in a certain order. The money flows from one corporation to another in an order. And those corporations are owned by stakeholders or liberal stakeholders or people who directly are involved in this little scheme of theirs. This is the pass the money around scheme, where they suck in a bunch of money into their little system, and then the money passes through all of these different corporations. Okay, so this is the reason why they're against the United States pulling out of the Iran deal, because Obama went and made a system by which the money never actually leaves this system. Okay, it's money for them and nobody else. It's money for them to fund their re-elections, stay in power, and it just goes on and on and on according to them. Okay, what they don't realize is that they have a serious problem. This is that welfare mentality where the money just never runs out to them. They don't ever see the money ever running out, so they just keep spending. And so spending goes out of control. Your deficits go way up, and your nations are essentially going broke. But in the liberal mindset, they still have all of the money, see? And so all they have to do is distribute some crumbs to the minions, okay? See what's happening? Now all of a sudden they've elevated their own status to a status that wasn't, that they were not elected to. They're not elected to that status, okay? They're not royalty. As much as they like to pretend that they are, it's fiction. They're not royalty. Now, we've talked a little bit about royalty before. And royalty in the aspect of there's one all-powerful, monarch that, they didn't pick these people because they were the coolest. Like, oh yeah, we got this guy. He seems pretty cool. Let's put him in charge. That isn't what happened. And over the centuries, there's been a few instances where people have risen up and then they've overthrown their monarch, but they've done it because, and this has given people a sense that these kings were elected. These are not elected people. They're not elected to that. Okay, they are the ones who held the title over the land. The title over the land is the ownership of the land, the ultimate ownership of the land. Now, you can't, one man cannot live on all, and all of the land that he owns, and to the exclusion of everyone else. There wouldn't be any room for any people in the world. So what a monarchy is the acknowledgement that there is a status, there is an order to ownership. That once you get rid of the monarch that owns the land now, after him, there will be other people who are related in ranks. That it's done that way to represent it's done that way to represent ownership, so that it's always known and it's never not known who actually owns the land. So all of those countries throughout history who had killed off their monarchies for good, bad, or indifferent, for whatever reason, they weren't doing themselves any favors, because it was just simply removing their own indigenous title holder. And so the title, because of marriages and because successive generations have children, the title then moves away from their country, and they cease to have that person who holds that position representative in their country. So that's why you see certain places like France, for example, they all of the power or all of the represented eminent domain of the title has shifted from the extreme east in Asia all the way to the west now. That's what's happened, because they killed off their kings or their emperors or whatever title that they had granted to them to represent that status. Okay, so but this is the type of authority that these people want. These people are line jumpers essentially, because they're nowhere near that status, and there's a large number of people that are way ahead of them that will hold the title of eminent domain over the nations way before they do. Okay, so this is their attempt. This is the globalist elitist attempt to supplant themselves into that system, and then get rid of those families who are title holders, eminent domain title holders. And that's what's funny is that they care about doing it legally. I mean, it's just odd if you're going to steal something, how you try to steal it legally. So it doesn't make any sense. This is why liberals don't make any sense. They get into these elected offices and they think to themselves, well, we're the ones now, we're the ones in power. And yet they don't have any of the authority. And so when they realize they don't have any of the authority, they make up legislation, they make up laws and rules to attempt to make up for that deficit, that deficit of authority. And that's where all of the world's problems come from. Liberals cause all of the world's problems. All of the problems, the major problems that we are facing today, are made up by liberals attempting to grab for themselves power that is not, number one, rightfully theirs. Number two, it doesn't belong to them, and neither would it belong to them, even if they took it, see? But there's a deficiency there, and they're aware of that deficiency, but they're not, they're selfish in a way because they don't want to acknowledge that there is an authority over them and over that system. There are families who have the authority, okay? But they're well aware of the fact that they don't have it. And so it all leads to one thing, and that is they want to get rid of the people who are in front of them. So Macron has this thing, Angela Merkel, she's the same way. Most of the EU is the same way. There's certain divisions in there that don't suffer quite as much from that same thing, but you even have areas like Poland where they wanted to give their, they wanted to get more control. The elected officials that are there now wanted more control over how the elections are run. And then they started making rules that were construed as, that could be construed as giving them a favorable advantage over any other party. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I like Poland and I like the government that's there now. They're actually doing a number of things that's what, I believe that they're operating properly, except in that respect that when they get to reach that point where what they really need to do is acknowledge that they don't have that authority. And this is, they don't have to do it publicly or anything like that, but just inside their own mindset, to just to realize, okay, there is a limit to the authority of an elected individual. Justin Trudeau, same thing. He has been importing people into Quebec and then moving them into Ontario. And I mean, let's take a wild stab at it. He was probably moving them into areas that he needed a win in for the elections. Okay, so he's imported voters that don't technically have a legal status to vote, but he's gone ahead and given them that. So this is the same thing as he's changed the rules, the election rules. He's changed the immigration rules by omission, and just allowed these people to come in and vote in a country that they're not actually citizens of, which is an unfair thing to the people who are citizens of that country. And not only that, those people that he has imported end up being a drain on the system, being a drain on the financial system and the economy. And all of the people that are citizens end up paying for these people to come in and usurp their democracy. So once again, this is Justin Trudeau realizing that he needs a certain level of authority that he does not possess, that he does not have. And so for any of the things that they've set up to work, this scheme of passing money through all of these different corporations and fronts and companies and shells, and it's this shell game, the liberal economic shell game. When he's tried to implement that, he realizes it's not going to work. The minute a conservative government is elected, it's over. It's over. They lose everything. And this is indeed what we've seen, a precursor to it in Ontario last night. So this is the same problem. That is the same problem. They're butting up against this lack of authority. They want, and that's why Justin Trudeau says things like he likes the basic dictatorship of China, because that would allow him the authority to do whatever it is he needs to do to maintain a liberal government and to maintain power. So the problem with the whole thing is that the power that these elected individuals are attempting to hold on to with their nefarious plans isn't real. Okay, and this is what I'm getting at. When you have a group of people that operates this way, they will operate this way, and the system will not bear it. The people that are hurt by it will rise up. And in this particular case, we've got the method for people to rise up is to get out and vote. And so that's what ends up happening is the people that are disaffected by these schemes realize, wait a minute, we got to do something or else I'm not going to have any money left. And so they go and vote for conservatives. And conservatives come in and they completely undo everything that the liberals did. And so their little game, their little scam is over. It's discovered. And so that's what we're seeing with Donald Trump. That's what we saw last night in Ontario, a big win in Ontario. And you can guarantee that everything that they've been doing with this little shell game, and they're in debt. They have massive amounts of debt in Ontario. So they've got a number of problems caused by the liberals devising these devious shell games where they move all of the money around wherever they want it. And nobody ever knows where the money is until we need money for, sleeping bags. So they pull money out of whatever shell company that they have to buy these sleeping bags. See, they are beholden to this idea of we're going to have all the money and that means we'll have all the power. But I'm going to tell you this, that because you've heard people say he who has the gold makes the rules. Well, in this particular case, if he who has all of the gold is poor, it doesn't work. See? You can never have all the gold. You have to spend it. Otherwise, it's worthless. It's not worth anything. And so this is the it's amateur hour. That's the amateurish way to run a country. We're going to scoop up all the money and then we'll be the ones that decides. Well, the ability to make the decisions has nothing to do with the fact that that's not leadership. That's just handling things whenever they happen. Okay, so that isn't leadership. Whenever your military deploys and you need sleeping bags, you pull out some money out of a shell and you buy the sleeping bags. So you're reacting. That isn't leadership. You're not actually proactive in creating an environment for everyone to prosper. So none of what they do makes sense. None of what they do makes sense. And so Trump is destroying that. And he's showing them that the way to prosperity is not through that liberal shell game. It's not through the 3-card Monty. It's not, the liberals have come up with this scheme. It's a scam, really, to be honest with you. It's a scam. It's a scam to take everyone's money so that they have all the money and you have nothing. To be honest with you, they have some other, ideologies that are terribly flawed that also mix in with this. One of them is that the world is overpopulated. It's a false ideology. It's like, well, we got to get all these people off the earth. So their idea is to take everybody's money and then kill them, to get rid of them. That's their agenda. Everybody talks about the agenda. The United Nations has an agenda, secret agenda, Bilderberg, all kinds of stuff. Okay, there's all kinds of weirdo stuff. There's somebody behind it. Yeah. Follow the money. Follow the money. You'll find that guy that's behind everything every time. Follow the money where it's being stolen. It's being stolen and moved to. Okay. Find that guy, and you will have discovered the secret society, the secret behind the world society. Gateway Pundit has a story. Now, we've talked about this one before. Here's the title: Key evidence goes missing. Server belonging to Wasserman Schultz IT worker Imran Awan is physically stolen from Congress. Now, this is Debbie Wasserman Schultz, okay? This guy worked for her for 13 years, okay? And so this guy was like literally spying on members of Congress. And he's like, he got caught. But the servers, though, are now missing. I don't know if this has this is the laptop. They had another laptop of hers that she was very adamant about demanding back, like from the DC police. Well, you can't hold that. You're going to give it back. And it's like, this gal, I tell you what, her little scandal was of her own making. But the fact that this guy spied, he's from Pakistan, ridiculous. So apparently Senator Feinstein's former intelligence staffer, Daniel Jones, is also connected to the New York Times reporter in that leak investigation. We talked about this one last night. That there were arrests made they arrested James Wolfe. He was a former Senate Intel Committee aide. This is the guy they're handing this classified information to put it in the SCIF so that they can read it. So this guy takes in all of this information, and he's the courier. He's the guy that's going to take it from the hand of the person who's delivering it from Department of Justice, and he's going to physically walk the documents over and catalog them and put them in this safe, confidential, classified room where there's not supposed to be any contact with the outside. There's no cell phones, you can't take pictures, stuff like that. But this guy is the guy that caught him using the encrypted Signal app, talking with this New York Times reporter, Ali Watkins. So the Justice Department, they seized her, they said they seized years worth of phone and email records. And then she also worked for BuzzFeed and Politico as a national security reporter, of course, because she's got a guy on the inside. So apparently this Daniel Jones guy, who was I believe, he was connected to Feinstein. And So we learn now that Daniel Jones, who's working with Fusion GPS and Steele on the Trump-Russia dossier, was the lead author of the CIA torture report. Ali Watkins was Pulitzer finalist for info on CIA torture report. And so now they're looking at this going, these two people must have been coordinating together. So this is all stuff that's coming out. And remember back in November, Attorney General Jeff Sessions said that, quote, we intend to get to the bottom of these leaks. Perhaps that's what's happening. Perhaps he's actually doing his job. Perhaps he is Stealth Jeff. Stealth Jeff. Also, one side note about Feinstein, she's senile. I think she's senile. So, Gateway has a story breaking. Mueller hits Paul Manafort with another indictment for witness tampering after raiding his iCloud account. He also seized his 37-year-old Lisa computer. It's one of the original Macintosh. His original Macintosh, which has a version of Missile Command on it. Mueller's going to get to the bottom of this, that's for sure. That's for sure. I just need one more nip of the flask. Who's going to get to the bottom of this? So these guys are all dueling with each other. All these people know each other. And like we were talking about this last night with General Flynn, apparently he was a witness against the guy that's investigating him. You know, what? How is all of this even possible? You know, these guys are just going after each other. Yeah, he was a witness against McCabe in a sex discrimination case. Gateway pundit, we were right. Senate investigators suspect McCabe altered Flynn's 302 report from ambush interview. There's no question there. More and more GOP lawmakers are saying impeach Rod Rosenstein if Department of Justice continues to slow walk Trump spying documents to Congress. Baha, you get rid of that guy. We want our documents. Justice Department says Obamacare's individual mandate is unconstitutional. Yeah, there was a lot of things that Obama did that was unconstitutional. I'm still waiting to find out where he was actually born. I mean, if he provided the level of information that he had provided when he was asked, his identification, his documents, birth certificates, whatever, his social security number, if he had presented that to the DMV, at least where I live, they would say, no, you got to have like 5 pieces. And they go and they check these, they check the numbers, do the thing. It's pretty thorough. It's pretty thorough. But I mean, every time I have to take a packet with all of my documents in. And sometimes I even have to have a witness. It's weird. It's weird. You get that level of scrutiny at a Department of Motor Vehicles. But the President of the United States still never showed anybody his birth certificate. You know, his documents. His documents are fake. They're phony. He's a phony. Obama. Now, I just want to remind everyone, okay, 2 things. First of all, socialism leads to Venezuela. What's going on in Venezuela right now? There's people starving, people literally exiting the country, okay? That's where socialism leads. That's where it goes. And that's what I've been talking about, this liberal ideology. That is where that goes. People end up broke, with no money and no food. That's what happens. That's why you don't want to play that game. That's why you don't want to play their little shell game. Also, in the same right, communism does the same thing. Now, I know there's people who will say, well, you know, what about China? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the thing about China is that, once again, you have a group of people, the Chinese Communist Party, who have to make up for deficiencies in their authority. Because China has been ruled by emperors for quite a long time, for millennia. And so it's agreed, I mean, everyone knows that the guy walking down the street, even if he's elected president or the chairman or whatever they call it, he's not an emperor. He's not the guy that owns the land. See? That's a big difference. Big difference. And so, and it doesn't work. If you go there and you look around, there's some stuff that they've forced some prosperity at the expense and on the backs of their own people. When what they could have done, and I'm not going to second guess what they could have done, I guess, What I am going to say is that they have a large number of controls that they are controlling people with. So even if it was bad, you may or may not ever hear about it. Luckily, there's enough ability to disseminate information widely, worldwide, globally, these days that we start to hear a number of things on how that machine cracks down on its own people. Now, if you look at it, it's kind of a practical thing if they're communist, lacking the authority, because in China you have, over 1 billion people. Now, over 1 billion people can decide to do something one day, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. And so that's why they keep their thumb on them. That's why they keep them, they actively go after them and persecute them just to make sure they have that idea in their mind all of the time that their government, this communist government, is in charge. It's heavy-handed. They have to do that. Because if the Chinese figure out that the communist government is just a handful of people compared to the population, it's over. It's over. So communism doesn't work. Socialism doesn't work. Liberalism doesn't work. Okay? Those are all side roads that don't lead anywhere except to starvation and death. So if you want to follow those ideologies, follow them to starvation and death. That's on you. Try to keep Charles Krauthammer in your prayers. It says he's revealed that he has weeks to live. And I guess that there was some cancer, and so prayers for him.